Welcome back to the second episode of People Matters. I'm Gunjan Aggarwal, Chief People Officer at RingCentral. I'm going to kick off our discussion today with a famous quote. Two most important days in your life are the day you're born and the day you learn why. Now, obviously, this is talking about your personal purpose, the reason why you're on earth, and how you can contribute to the world. Today, we're going to talk about a slightly different purpose, but equally important and powerful, a company's purpose, and how having a clearly defined purpose can really energize your people and create an empowering work culture. We'll also talk about how to articulate your culture, your purpose, how to lead with purpose, as well as how do you actually start to translate your purpose into meaningful actions. Joining me today is a very, very special guest who has constantly inspired me, and I know who is very, very passionate about this topic. Anand Eswaran, President and COO at RingCentral. Anand, I'm delighted to have you in this conversation today.
Gunjan, the pleasure is entirely mine. It's such a critical topic and so close to my heart. By the way, I just want to say, funny you started with a quote by Simon Sinek because I was just finishing up, Simon's book. I'm a huge fan as well. So, given we've not really scripted this, I thought that was ironic. But glad to be here. I actually believe that a company's purpose needs to have a very significant overlap with our personal purpose as well. So I really don't even think of these as two very separate topics. I think of them as something which needs to come together for this to really work.
You're absolutely right. I mean, it would be so powerful if there is a convergence of an individual's purpose with the company purpose. How energizing and exciting would it be to come into work every day? So, still continuing on that topic, though, Anand, and Simon Sinek, since you called him out, he talks about the golden circle, right? The what, the how, and why of businesses. Now, we are a technology company and we are constantly reinventing and focusing on the what and the how. But I think it's the why, which is really the motivation and the purpose of what we do, that really creates magic, the magic that you were talking about. So tell me why, in your perspective, you think it is really important to have that purpose, and how does one go about really bringing that purpose up to the forefront in an organization?
No, it's a great question. As you said, Gunjan, purpose is about defining the why of our existence. It's our reason for being, right? It truly answers the question, okay, so what is it that we do which is so important to the world at large? Businesses, obviously, we talk about businesses exist to make money, and we'll come to that in a second. But for most of us, financial gain is an important part of what is it that we do when we come to work, but it's just not enough. And if in fact, if anything, the events of the last year has taught us one thing, that is, we all feel the need to make a difference in the world, and having a clearly defined purpose, or being purpose-led, this is where what allows an entire ecosystem, all our people, our customers, our partners, our stakeholders, shareholders, to feel emboldened and enabled to fulfill that need, being purpose-led. That is very critical. If I were to just say, hey, just look at some of the purpose statements. A lot of them I admire a lot. Microsoft, where I came from, empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. Or Nike, it's a company with a history of inspiring people, and their purpose statement is, Nike exists to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. And by athlete, they may, it doesn't mean these are the famous people. It means if you have a body, you're an athlete. And through the power of sport, it basically allows people to break barriers and build community to change the game for all. It's fabulous. So, there's just this existential thing about purpose, which energizes all of us to bring our best game to work. That's why it becomes so critical. But if you just look at it in terms of brass, cold numbers, right? The other side of the coin, number one, business outcomes. I think Deloitte had said this, which is purpose-driven companies, they said, witness higher market share gains and grow 3 times faster on average than their competition. And they do all of this while achieving higher workforce and customer satisfaction. So, you need quantitative reasons for why purpose is important. That's one. The other one is it truly drives deep customer or consumer engagement, depending on who your customer is. Is it the commercial enterprise customers, or is it, you're working directly with the consumers? And businesses who are purpose-led create deeper connections. They do more for the communities with which they work, and that helps them better attract and retain talent. And so that is important. The other thing I think about on that dimension is how purpose, brand, and culture, everything needs to come together. In fact, Gallup had said this, I remember, where they said that when purpose and behavior are in sync, and by behavior, they mean culture. When purpose and culture are in sync, then your customers, are truly aligned with your brand promise, and that gives the brand twice as much share of the wallet as companies who don't have that alignment, who don't have that trifecta of purpose, brand, and culture truly coming together. And finally, you know what? I think that purpose-led companies are truly sustainably succeed in the long term. Sustainable success is a function of being purpose-led. So all of that put together is why I think purpose is so critical. And I'm excited to see, if you look at what's happening in the marketplace today. I mean, the Business Roundtable, which was established by 181 different CEOs of the biggest brands, in the industry right now, who came together to challenge a very long-standing conventional principle of economics. It came all the way back from Milton Friedman, where he said the primary purpose of companies is to achieve, shareholder value. Essentially, he said the primary purpose of companies is profit. And essentially we are challenging that right now. We're saying, purpose needs to exist far beyond profit. Profit is an outcome when you do other things right. And so I'm excited to actually see that these principles, are actually coming to life and being followed largely by all the companies around us. So all of that said, purpose, I think, is existential to a company's journey of sustainable success.
Wow, Anand, that is absolutely amazing to hear you kind of inspect this and talk about it in such a holistic manner. So, one question that comes to mind is, how do you then go about really surfacing up and articulating that purpose in an organization? And I know we at Ring Central are working on it. So, what are some of your thoughts? How do you think about it? And what kind of guidance we can provide to others as well that are listening to us?
It's a great question. And honestly, I'm sure there's everybody has a different approach. And so the way I think about it is this. One is, first, it's important to involve people in that journey. And the first step is, you got to step back and reflect. We've got to ask ourselves those questions, which, Gunjan, as you know, we are on this journey as Ring Central, which is, hey, does our company have a purpose? And it's interesting, Vlad Shmonis, our founder, chairman, and CEO, the words he used to found this company still rings so true, which is simplify business communications. And the key is, though, we've got to make sure that it is front of mind, it's conscious, not subconscious, and everyone in the company understands it and is able to relate to it. So you got to go back to the brass tacks. Does our company have a purpose? Does our company have one which truly makes a difference? What does our company do to inspire that passion, to inspire that commitment and loyalty of everyone involved, and not just our employees, but also, our customers? What is the positive impact our company can have in the world that would make every single team member really proud to be a part of? But let's also remember that reflection process, that path to understanding the why of any existence and defining that, what to bring that why to life actually takes time. And we shouldn't rush it. And we need to involve the entire company as part of that process, because that's when you get that buy-in, because everybody then feels that they see the company's purpose as aligned with their personal purpose. That alignment is actually super critical. So involve your people right from the start and every step of the way. And there are simple things. When I think about purpose, I think about simple things which I would love to make sure it's infused in it. It starts with authenticity. If we are not truly authentic about what we mean when we say purpose, if each person, each leader, each employee, doesn't feel that, doesn't see that, it's not going to work. Authenticity is really important as you get on this journey. Compassion is very critical. I always used to talk about empathy as a critical part of purpose, but when I met the former CEO of LinkedIn, I got a word from him which resonates for me even more, which is compassion. He talked about it as empathy with action. So compassion is very critical. Customer relevance is very critical. Do your customers, the industry you work in, the customers you work with, are they able to relate to the purpose you talk about? Customer relevance and linkage to the purpose we have as a company is very critical. Something we have to think about. You've got to make it inspirational, but not vague. The worst thing we can do is purpose remains very good words just on paper. It is really hard. So inspirational, but don't make it vague. Make it crisp. Make it something which is actionable. And you've got to be able to codify it to be a guide on decision making. So let me also share why that is important. Let me give a couple of examples. In fact, I'd read an article on this some time back. I think it was Nate Warren, where he talked about how purpose needs to serve as a guide for decision making. And he had shared a couple of examples, like Southwest, where Southwest decided against charging customers for check bags. But you would have thought about it. Just take a step back. The airline gave up a huge windfall by levying such a fee, which every other airline charges for checked bags. But the airline Southwest's stated purpose was to connect people to what's important to their lives through friendly, reliable, and low-cost air travel. And choosing, to levy baggage check fees just came against the way of that purpose. So the reason I share that example is it's easy to come up with a purpose, but you've got to make sure that purpose weaves its way into all decisions you make, even if those decisions may come at the expense of short-term gain. That's when you know as a company, you're serious about the purpose you create. And a simple tool I had read along, a little while back, which we are using here at RingCentral now, was basically the so what set of questions. As an example, the industry purpose, for us is to be the industry's best UCaaS platform to simplify business communications. So what? What's the benefit of that? Any mode, you can be on any mode, you can be on any device, you can be anywhere. So what? What's the benefit of that? You have the ability, we empower our customers and our users to work from anywhere. So what? What's the benefit of that? It truly empowers human connections. And sort of that's the journey we are on to figure out what our purpose is. And some simple tools, and I know there's many tools which companies can use, but that's a simple tool you can use to ask the question, so what, repeatedly until you get to the essence of what your company's purpose may be and what you stand for. So a lot of different things on tips and tricks and the journey you have to be on. But that's how I feel about it, Gunjan.
So many amazing nuggets here. You talked about compassion and particularly the so what aspect, right? I mean, really being truthful to that. So I think, I mean, if I really continue to parse it out, the one thing that you're saying is really making it powerful by having it resonate with our employees, with the people. And I think there, I must ask you this question, right? Right now, many organizations are leaning into their purpose and they are taking stands on difficult issues. And there are some organizations which perhaps are not. So I think it's important from what I hear from you that we empower our employees and we encourage them to speak boldly, to act boldly, and be courageous. How do we continue to do that and also drive business success, Anand? How do you see it in your mind? Is there a pro and con to it? Or perhaps you see it in a completely different perspective?
End of the day, I think that making a difference to the customers, the community, and the people is what drives company success in a sustainable manner. So I almost view business success as an outcome of all the other things which we need to do right. And so, yeah, we have to. I don't think at this point in time, in the era we live in, I don't think we have the luxury of not taking a stand on what could be construed as potentially controversial issues. But the key thing you have to do is you've got to separate the politics of it. That's when it starts to become very tricky. But you've got to empower your people to take the leadership to actually go drive it. So this is not about Gunjan, you or me as the only people who take a stand on issues. It is you've got to create the space within our organization for people, every employee to feel comfortable, on having a conversation, having uncomfortable conversations, and thereby getting a company on a journey on where we stand. I mean, I'll give you a great example. This is, last May when Black Lives Matter surged to the forefront of so many people's minds through all the unfortunate events which happened in the spring of last year. Instead of insisting on a conversation to be held outside of work, we created an internal messaging group, and we actually brought this topic to the forefront of many conversations within the company to discuss the issues openly, honestly, and together as a company. And this is where so many employees just stood up, and their leadership is what made a difference. Like Danita, Ivan, I mean, their leadership made a difference, and the whole company came together. Honest conversations about issues, what mattered to them, their experiences. It was both, hearing from the Black community at that point, but also hearing from people on what we could do to be better allies. And so essentially, we are at a point where these conversations, uncomfortable conversations, are critical to the journey of a company. People expect it. Absence of that is actually making a bigger stand and a bigger statement than an active conversation there. And so every company has to think through, the soul of every company operates differently. So all of us have to think through how we empower people to help them feel a greater sense of commitment to our company, RingCentral. And collaboration and communications via technology is at the heart of what we do, right, as a company. So it's been great to use, our technology to bring our people closer, to have these conversations and make us better as not just as a company, but make all of us better as individuals through this journey.
Anand, that's so true. And I know a lot of our employees are really thankful for that space. And I saw some true magic happen in terms of discussion, debate, moderation, and actually, really more in depth understanding of these very complicated topics. So, Anand, going back to one of your so what comment, as we are working on our kind of re-articulating our purpose and thinking through it as we continuously innovate and grow as a company, have you seen of any customer examples or something that you saw which kind of resonated with you from a purpose perspective in terms of our product and interaction of our product with our customers?
Many, many. I mean, a recent example I'd shared is just the unfortunate shooting which happened in the grocery mall in Colorado. And, one of our customers is actually, doing the work to connect the communities, and they got deeply involved in how, they basically went to the grocery store, they set up shop, all the volunteers and workers in this nonprofit were trying to make sure that they give people the resources they needed to get over the trauma, be there quickly to work hand in hand with law enforcement to actually get people there to a better place. Both people who witnessed it, people who were families of victims, and people in the community. And they essentially, we as RingCentral had basically powered them. They use RingCentral as a platform for all of their communications, and the ability to be in the field and work from anywhere and use their phones and work multimodal, because sometimes you may need to be using your messaging tool, sometimes you may need to be on a quick video, sometimes you may need to be on a quick phone call. And having an integrated app, deeply integrated app, so it's bringing the experiences of those multi-modes together, made a difference to this nonprofit as they worked to basically connect the communities and bring them together in a time like that. And I see many examples across healthcare, across all different hospitals, different nonprofits, different schools, where I feel proud that we are able to make a difference, and especially it's been a hard year for us across the world, and our ability to make a difference using our platform has been especially rewarding.
And Anand, actually, I can also share my own personal experience, though it is not as powerful as what you shared, but for me, it is particularly very impactful as a working professional, but also a mom. This year has been really hard, juggling many things together, and I am absolutely thankful for our product because it allows me to do so many things. It's just completely seamless. I can go out of the house while listening in on the call. I can switch to my video. It's completely seamless and not lose the conversation that I'm in, but still do what I need to do from a work perspective and home perspective sometimes when there are those intersections. So I fully hear what you're saying. And the way I see it is it's really empowering someone like me to continue in a leadership role in an organization when many other female colleagues of mine and friends of mine actually had to make the decision to leave work because they just couldn't, it wasn't those tools, maybe, and other things as well, of course, were not available to them.
That's so powerful, right? At some point, it's the impact each of us feel at our, as an individual, as a person. So thank you for sharing that. And in fact, when we, the first step, as you know, Gunjan, is we asked all our employees on what purpose meant for them, and so we asked them to describe the values, which are the purpose is the why, the values are the how of how we achieve that purpose. And so we asked them to describe, the values, and we asked them to describe how they would think about it. And, we're still on a journey, but, the first early read for me, 3 words came up constantly, which was communication, connection, and collaboration. And, specifically, interestingly, for healthcare, education, and nonprofits. Work from anywhere is also a theme which came up very often, often, particularly with how we can help underserved communities and developing countries. And finally, the early themes also came back on how the team is very passionate about how our environmental impact is right now. How can we contribute to that, and how we can actually make a real difference for our planet? So these are the early themes which are coming across in our purpose journey, and themes which will guide us forward as we go, become a purpose-led company or on a journey, continue. I don't think there's any end to this concept of a purpose-led journey. We are constantly going to be on that journey. We are going to constantly evolve. And so it's very refreshing to see the active participation from people as we get on this journey.
Very true, Anand. Now, one question I definitely would like to ask you for our listeners' benefit is that while we are talking about all these things and great things and the good work that we are also doing within our own organization, obviously there are barriers to such a undertaking such a task, right? So what kind of barriers come to your mind as you think about implementing a purpose-led culture in an organization?
I think in some ways, barriers and some of the things I talked about earlier sort of start to come together, which is number one, authenticity is really key. We've got to resist. I think, I see certain companies having a purpose statement, which feels like really grandiose statements, but it, sometimes feels like words on a paper. So making sure that, purpose is about really something which inspires us on our journey forward is going to be very key. The second thing is the biggest barrier which I see is making sure that purpose is codified into how we run and operate our business. And sometimes we may need to make decisions, which, as I said earlier, will come at the expense of short-term gain, but which will hold us true to our purpose and hold us true to sustainable success for the future. And making that decision to sacrifice short-term gain for the right decision and the longer-term horizon of thinking is actually very critical. So this short-term quarterly cycle we live in, from a public company standpoint, is actually a big barrier. The third thing which is very critical is listen. Listen to our people. Purpose is not something which is decided by a group of executives in a room. Purpose is something which is organically something which we converge on as a company. And we take the time to do that. And we go on this journey together. So resist the impulse to just, treat it as one more project where you get in a room, and you decide the purpose and communicate to the employees what the purpose of the company is. Resist the impulse. Every employee contributing to it is what, makes purpose sustainable long-term as well. So that becomes really critical. And end of the day, you've got to live up to it. With every action we take, every decision we take, every word we speak, we have to live up to that purpose. And that comes along with that is a set of expectations, which is nobody willfully says something or does something which is incorrect or doesn't accrue to the purpose. But as leaders, then we need to have that incremental responsibility of just pausing and thinking about every decision and just making sure that it accrues to the purpose of the company we've talked about. So it puts that extra responsibility on us if we are serious about being a purpose-led company.
I am so excited to be part of this journey. I've never been more excited about what our purpose-led culture and our organization can do in future. So I really want to thank you, Anand, for spending your time and giving us your insights. And of course, your passion is out there. It's very clear for anyone to see how passionate and informed you are about this topic. So continue this conversation, and thanks a lot, Anand.
Gunjan, thank you, and thank you for your leadership, Gunjan. And the difference you and the team are making is so critical to our journey ahead. So thank you for your leadership, and it was my absolute pleasure to be a part of this chat.